My name is Maya Lynn Nguyen, and I'm 29. I build software for a mid-sized tech company. Solid pay, decent benefits, nothing glamorous, just clean code and a quiet pride when a release goes live without waking anyone at 2 a.m. My boyfriend, Ethan Cole, 27, teaches yoga part-time. He calls it alignment work. He also calls full-time jobs corporate slavery, but when I offered to help him tune his resume, he said the universe wasn't hiring. I didn't think we were broken. I thought we were uneven. I carried the rent, the car, the little extras that make a life feel nicer than it strictly needs to be. I told myself it was temporary. He had heart. He had time for people. He made chamomile tea and remembered my bug fix victories. Sometimes love is a ledger of small kindnesses, and I felt rich. What I didn't budget for was a dinner with his entire family. It was his parents' anniversary. Silver ribbon, white tablecloths, 25 people, circling a long rectangle like spokes around their marriage. His dad, Frank, the contractor, with a handshake that felt like a promise. His mother, Patricia, hosting with the brittle grace of someone who believes a perfect salad can hold chaos at bay. His sister, Melissa, whose smile never reaches her eyes. I came with a bottle of wine and a cake I'd ordered with their wedding date piped in clean script. I sat where they told me and tried to absorb their stories, their shorthand, their punchlines that came with no setup. I was a guest, I reminded myself. Guests watch, listen, adapt. Between toasts, Ethan's cousin Bradley launched into a monologue about his promotion, his Tesla, his Bali itinerary. There was a polite chorus of wow and must be nice. Then Patricia turned to me with the bright attention of a hostess completing a circuit. And you, Maya? Ethan says you work with computers? Ethan laughed first. Not a soft laugh, the kind that folds a joke inward like a secret, but the sharp kind. The kind that lands on the tableware. Oh, she does, he said, and put his arm around my shoulders with the heavy affection of a claim. But honestly, she's just a little girl who needs her mommy. The room cooled. Not cold exactly, but a sudden breeze you feel in your bones before the door swings shut. He kept going. Every Sunday, like clockwork. If her mom needs a light bulb changed, Maya's gone. If a doctor's appointment pops up, she's on call like a nurse. I keep telling her, once we're married, that's going to change. We'll have boundaries, holidays like normal people. Someone, maybe Patricia, made a soft sound meant to be a redirect. Melissa, though, leaned in. Good luck with that, she said. Mama's girls never change. Ethan grinned, eyes gleaming with a kind of stage light. Oh, I'll change her. Once we pool finances, we'll get this under control. Her mom will be fine. She doesn't need a new fridge every year. My mother needed one fridge, I said, and set my fork down because my hand had started to shake. After hers died. Exactly, Ethan said, nodding to the table like he'd proven a point. Maya's heart is huge, sometimes too huge. This is the place in the story where people ask why I didn't stop him sooner, why I didn't kick him under the table or cut him off with a joke of my own. I ask myself too. But shock is an anesthetic. It makes you slow. It makes you polite. Patricia reached for the salad. Who wants more? Also, Ethan said louder, she can't make a decision without calling her mom. Like last week, date night, candlelit pasta, my treat. And she left early because her mom needed help moving a couch. A couch. He looked around, hunting for laughter. Melissa gave it to him on cue. I saw my future then. It wasn't a vision. It was math. 1,000 little humiliations spread across 50 years, compounded monthly. I watched myself become the kind of woman who apologizes for a love that made her decent. You're right, I said. The words came out quiet and clean. My voice surprised me. It had the steadiness of someone else's spine. Ethan's smirk lifted. See? She admits it. I stood, napkin on the plate, cake box angled toward Patricia. Thank you for dinner, I said to his parents. Happy anniversary. I turned to Ethan. You're absolutely right. I am a little girl who needs her mother, and little girls shouldn't get married. I didn't wait for the silence to fill. I walked out into a night so crisp I could hear the lid on the trash bin settle after a raccoon let go. Behind me, my phone began to rattle. Texts stacking like hail. Baby, come back? I was joking. You're embarrassing me. If you leave, we're done. I sent one reply. We're already done. I drove to my mother's house. The kitchen light was on. She does that. Keeps one light like a beacon. She opened the door before I knocked, as if grief makes sound. "Tea?" she asked. I nodded. She made jasmine. We sipped. She waited. She always waits. When I told her, she didn't gasp or curse or offer a referendum on Ethan's soul. She listened. And then, after a long quiet, she said, "I never liked him." She held up a hand. "I kept my mouth shut because you looked happy. But he never brought anything on Sundays, never offered to help. He'd roll his eyes when you hugged me goodbye. Small things, but they add up." I slept in my old room, which smelled vaguely of dust and the cologne of boys I once thought I'd be with forever. In the morning, sunlight found the one spot on the floor where the varnish never took. It always did. I liked that about it, its honesty. I stood there and decided. I called in sick. Then I drove to the apartment while I knew he'd be leading a noon vinyasa. I packed my life in hours. Clothes, my work setup, documents, the mug with the chip that only I notice. I left the furniture. I wanted the cut to be clean, except for the 65-inch TV I'd bought 3 months ago. Petty? Maybe. But there's a dignity in taking one thing you loved simply because you loved it. I slid my keys onto the counter with a note. Rent is paid through the end of the month. After that, it's your responsibility. Power and internet are in my name. I'll cancel Friday. Good luck. The basement rec room at Mom's had always been a half-finished promise. By nightfall, it was mine. A lamp in the corner, fresh sheets, a future that felt like an empty text field, blinking cursor, wide open. My phone kept shaking itself across the nightstand. I turned it face down. Then I opened it and started taking screenshots. Not to post, just to remember the order of things. First, you're overreacting. Then, how am I supposed to pay rent? Then, you're being financially abusive. I laughed out loud at that one. For 2 years, I'd carried most of the load while he held the language of freedom like a shield. There are words that mean the opposite of what they say. On Tuesday, he waited in my office lobby for 3 hours. Badge access kept him out. A friend texted a heads up. I took the back stairs and went home. On Wednesday, the panic turned real in his voice. On Thursday, his father called, reasonable and warm. "One comment can't end 3 years, Maya." I told him it wasn't one comment. It was a plan, publicly stated, to control my money and ration my love. There's an old advice column that says when someone tells you who they are, believe them. I'd say when someone tells everyone else who you'll be once they control you, believe that too. I slept early that night. Friday I would make more calls, the kind that changed dates and balances and caterers' calendars. It wasn't revenge, it was housekeeping. The difference is whether you plan to live there afterward. Somewhere past midnight, my phone lit with an unknown number and a voicemail from a voice I didn't recognize at first. Soft, embarrassed, flat as if practiced. "Hi, Maya. This is Sabrina, Ethan's ex. We've never met. I heard what happened at the dinner. I left him when he began calling control care. I'm sorry you had to learn it in public." I didn't save the voicemail. I didn't need to. The words were already etched in the varnishless spot on my floor. Some truths don't need proof. They just need light. There's a strange calm that comes after you detonate your own life, the kind that feels like standing in a house right after the storm's passed. Everything's still, except for the faint hum of what you've just done. That was me, 3 days after the dinner. I'd already moved into Mom's basement, unpacked my monitor, my clothes, and that ridiculous 65-inch TV I'd refused to leave behind. It looked almost absurd against the cinder block wall, like I'd dragged a piece of the old world into a bunker. But in a way, I had. Mom didn't hover. She just brought me soup that first night and said, "I'll handle the upstairs. You handle what's next." That was her way of saying she trusted me to make good on the wreckage. By Monday morning, I had a list. Cancel utilities in the old apartment. Change mailing address. Update HR records. Block Ethan on everything. I almost made it through number 4 before my phone lit up with his name. Ethan. "You took the TV?" Me. "Yes." Ethan. "You're unbelievable." Me. "Thanks." He called 5 times after that. Then he switched tactics. Texts filled with apology, nostalgia, guilt, and, of course, blame. "You know I was joking. You humiliated me walking out like that. How can you just abandon me? I can't pay rent alone. This is financial abuse." Financial abuse. from the man who'd contributed 20% to our living costs for 2 years and bragged about not being owned by capitalism. I turned off notifications. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. The social media storm. Wednesday morning, my coworker Julia stopped by my cubicle, hesitating like she'd stepped into someone else's funeral. Hey, have you seen Ethan's Instagram? I hadn't. I didn't need to, but she turned her phone around anyway. There it was, a photo of him meditating captioned, "Some people confuse love with codependence. I wish her the best on her healing journey, but I can't be someone's emotional crutch anymore." Thousands of likes. Comments from his yoga students. So proud of your boundaries. It takes strength to walk away from toxic attachment. You deserve peace, King. I stared at it, not even angry, just fascinated. He'd rewritten the story before I'd even finished cleaning up the pieces. By noon, my DMs were flooded, half from people telling me to let him go, the other half from mutuals asking for my side. I said nothing. Silence is underrated. It makes people wonder what you know. The friend group reveal. By Friday, I learned the truth about Ethan's so-called independence. Turns out I hadn't just been funding our life. I'd been funding his entire circle. Every group dinner, every weekend getaway, every spontaneous double date. Ethan always said, "I'll get it this time," and I thought it was sweet. What I didn't know was that "I'll get it" meant Maya's paying. Without me, the ecosystem collapsed. Chloe, one of his yoga friends, texted me out of nowhere. "Hey, could you maybe spot Ethan for rent this month? He's trying to get back on his feet." I didn't respond. A few hours later, another message from Victoria, his closest friend, popped up on Venmo. Request: $350 for Ethan's share of Bali trip refund. I declined with the note, "Little girls don't have money. Ask your guru." The appeal. Saturday morning, I opened my laptop to pay bills and found an email, subject line, "Please talk to me." It wasn't from Ethan. It was from his father, Frank. "Maya, I know what he said was wrong, but don't you think ending everything over one night is drastic? He's devastated. He says he can't sleep, can't eat. Maybe talk to him just once?" I stared at the screen, then typed, "Frank, it wasn't one night. It was a mirror. Your son showed me who he was in public because that's who he's always been in private. Please tell him I wish him peace." No reply. But that evening, something strange happened. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. When I picked up, the voice was tight, low, and female. "Is this Maya?" "Yes." "This is Patricia, Ethan's mother." "Maya, I just want to say, you broke his heart. You humiliated him in front of everyone. You could have waited until later to talk privately." "He called me a child in front of his entire family," I said quietly. She sighed. "He was teasing." Teasing is supposed to make people laugh, not bleed. Silence. Then, "He loves you, Maya. Don't throw that away because of your mother." I felt something click then. Not anger, but understanding. It was the same tone Ethan used when I didn't agree fast enough. That soft, guilt-coated control. The kind that sounds like care until you notice the leash. "I'm not throwing anything away," I said. "I'm cleaning up what never belonged in my life." I hung up. The unexpected message. A week later, an email arrived that I nearly deleted, thinking it was spam. The subject line read, "From someone who used to love him too." It was from Sabrina, the ex who'd left him 2 years ago. "I saw your story on social media. Don't believe what he's posting. When we were together, he told me the same things. You care too much about your family. I'll help you grow up. You need to stop letting your parents influence you." He doesn't want a partner, Maya. He wants an audience. I wish someone had told me sooner. I sat back and stared at that last line. I thought about the anniversary dinner, about how he'd looked around for laughter that never came, about how silence had hurt him more than any word could. That's when I realized I didn't owe him closure. I owed myself peace. The foreshadowing of revenge. That weekend, Mom mentioned her upcoming 63rd birthday. "I don't want anything big," she said. "Maybe dinner here, a few neighbors." I smiled, stirring my tea. "Let me handle it." Because somewhere between those texts, those fake posts, and those Venmo requests, I'd remembered something crucial. I was the one who paid every wedding deposit. The venue, the photographer, the caterer. And if he could publicly humiliate me in front of his family, I could privately reallocate my investment. Not revenge, just balance. I opened my laptop and typed an email. "Hello, this is Maya Nguyen regarding the Nguyen Cole wedding. I'd like to discuss refund and transfer options." When I hit send, the cursor blinked at me again, like it did that first night in the basement. A single flash of light, marking the start of something new. It's funny how empowerment doesn't arrive with fanfare. It just settles in. Quiet, heavy, like a door that finally locks from the inside. By Monday, I had responses from all 3 vendors. The venue refunded most of my contribution, minus a modest cancellation fee. The photographer offered credit toward any future event. The caterer, my favorite email, said they couldn't issue a refund, but could transfer the deposit to another date and name. So I did exactly that. Let's make it for Mrs. Lin Nguyen's 63rd birthday celebration. Full dinner and open bar for 60 guests, I said. The woman on the phone hesitated. That's your mother? Yes. That's a lovely idea. It really was. The total deposit I'd paid for the wedding had been $8,500. Ethan's share, $1,500. Mine, $7,000. I wasn't taking anything from him. I was taking back what was mine. The first explosion. By Wednesday afternoon, my phone lit up with a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered, because curiosity is sometimes stronger than wisdom. Maya, it's me. Ethan's voice snapped through the speaker. Why did the venue call me saying the wedding's canceled? I leaned back in my chair. Because it is. You had no right. I had every right. I paid for it. That's not the point. You embarrassed me. You ruined everything. I saved you from marrying someone you clearly didn't respect. He scoffed. Oh, so this is revenge? You're turning my mother's anniversary into your martyr story? No, I said softly. This is me turning our wedding into my mother's birthday. Think of it as good karma. One woman's humiliation funding another woman's joy. Silence. Then the sound of him exhaling like a hiss. You're doing this to hurt me. No, Ethan. I'm doing this because I finally remembered who I am when I'm not trying to manage your comfort. I hung up. The parents intervene. That evening, I was peeling vegetables when Mom's phone rang upstairs. I heard her quiet voice through the vent. Calm, even. Then a pause. When she came down, she said, "That was Frank." Of course it was. He wanted to talk to you. I nodded, took the phone. Hello, Frank. Hi, Maya. Look, I'm not calling to defend what Ethan said. It was out of line. But walking out, ending things like that, it seems extreme. Frank, I said carefully, he didn't just say I'm a child. He told your entire family he planned to financially control me and cut off my mother once we were married. That's not a comment. That's a confession. There was a pause long enough to count breaths. He said that? Yes. Ask Patricia. Ask Melissa. They heard every word. I must have missed that part, he said softly. I was in the kitchen getting more wine. Then maybe listen to your wife this time. He sighed. He can't afford the apartment alone. He might have to move back home. Maybe that's for the best. You're really done, aren't you? I was done the moment he looked around that dinner table to see who'd laugh. Another long silence, this one heavier than guilt. I can't say I blame you, Frank said finally. Take care of yourself, Maya. I smiled. I already am. The cancellation cascade. Thursday afternoon, my inbox filled with polite confirmations. Venue. Your refund has been processed. Photographer. Your cancellation is complete. Hope to work with you again. Caterer. Menu confirmed for Mrs. Nguyen's 63rd birthday. That last one made me laugh. It felt poetic. But the universe apparently loves symmetry, because an hour later, my phone buzzed again. Patricia. Maya, she began, all maternal frost. You're destroying my son over pride. Your son destroyed us over ego. He's had to cancel the wedding. Do you have any idea how humiliating that is? Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to be called a child in front of 25 people? Patricia inhaled sharply. He was teasing. That's how he shows affection. By announcing plans to control my finances and cut off my family? That's affection? You're twisting his words. I exhaled slowly. You were there, Patricia. You tried to change the subject because even you knew it was inappropriate. She went quiet then. She's my son. I have to defend him. I understand, I said, and he's your problem now. I ended the call. The aftermath. The next morning, I woke to a notification that nearly made me spit out my coffee. Ethan had launched a GoFundMe. Title: Help me rebuild after financial abuse. Goal: $10,000. Description: My ex-fiancé isolated me financially, forced me to quit full-time work, and abandoned me without warning. Reality check: He refused full-time work because it disrupted his spiritual flow. He was never isolated. He just never funded anything. He wasn't abandoned. He was released. The page raised $200. $150 from his mom and $50 from his aunt. Mom read it, rolled her eyes, and said, "Maybe he'll reach his goal in 40 years. Compound interest helps." We laughed, a small, quiet laugh, the kind that heals something. The job reference. 2 weeks later, the phone rang again. This time, a professional number. "Hello, is this Maya Nguyen?" "Yes." "This is Amanda from Core Fitness. We're calling about a reference for Ethan Cole." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "He listed you as a professional reference." I almost admired the audacity. "I've never worked with Ethan professionally," I said. "We were in a personal relationship. I can't comment on his work ethic." "Oh," she said, awkward. "Thank you for clarifying." It happened 3 more times. 3 different gyms. Same story. When Frank called again, his tone had shifted from paternal to weary. "He's saying you're sabotaging his job search." "He listed me as a professional reference without asking. I told the truth." "He says you bad-mouthed him." "I said I couldn't speak to his professional skills because I've never worked with him." Frank sighed. "He's desperate, Maya. He's 27, unemployed, living with his parents." "And whose fault is that, Frank?" He didn't answer. The reclamation. Meanwhile, I was thriving. Without Ethan's expenses, I was saving $2,000 a month. I paid off my car loan early, started an investment portfolio, and replaced all the old windows in Mom's house. The basement rec room was finally finished. New flooring, painted walls, a tiny kitchenette. It wasn't luxury, but it was mine. I slept better than I had in years. I started cooking again. Real food, not quick bites, eaten over bug reports. Mom and I had dinners where laughter didn't have to hide behind politeness. Sometimes I'd hear her humming upstairs while I worked late, and I'd think, this is what peace sounds like. Not silence, but the absence of tension. And yet, I knew the story wasn't over. People like Ethan don't exit quietly. They stage returns. The question was when. That answer came the following Sunday. Doorbell, midday. Mom opened the door. I heard the shift in her tone, the crispness of it. "Mrs. Nguyen, we need to talk to Maya." It was Ethan, with his parents, and his sister. 4 against 2. Mom's voice steady. "She doesn't want to see you, dear." "This is between me and her," Patricia said. "And this is my house," Mom replied. "You're not welcome." I came to the doorway, calm as marble. "It's okay, Mom. Let's hear them out." Ethan stepped forward. "Maya, I'm here to apologize. I was wrong. I was nervous, showing off. I said stupid things. Please, give me another chance." "You weren't drunk," I said. "You had 1 glass of wine." "Fine. I was insecure." "So you threw me under the bus to feel taller?" He opened his mouth, but his sister cut in. "Oh my God, it was just girl talk. Everyone complains about their partner sometimes. You're acting like he murdered someone." "That's normal to you?" I asked quietly. "Mocking someone's family in public?" Patricia jumped in next. "He loves you, Maya. He made a mistake. Surely that's worth forgiveness." I met her eyes. "I've forgiven him. That doesn't mean I'm taking him back." Then Frank, tired but hopeful. "What would it take? Counseling? Mediation?" I shook my head. "There's nothing to fix. He showed me who he is, and I believe him." Ethan's voice cracked. "You're ruining my life over one comment." Mom, who'd been silent till then, stepped forward. "You ruined your own life," she said, her tone calm but devastating. "You had a woman who loved you, supported you, and would have given you everything. And you mocked her for loving her mother. What kind of man does that? What kind of husband? What kind of father would you be, to mock your own child for loving too deeply?" Ethan's face went pale. Patricia's went red. Frank's shoulders slumped. Melissa muttered something about toxic femininity and emotional manipulation. Mom opened the door wider. "Get off my property, and don't come back. My daughter deserves better." They left. The quiet that followed wasn't awkward. It was sacred. I exhaled and said, "Thank you." She smiled. "For what?" "For reminding me that some love isn't weakness." That night, I sent one final message to the caterer. "Add an extra dessert table," I wrote. "We're celebrating freedom, too." The Sunday after the confrontation felt eerily calm. Mom was in the garden, trimming her orchids. I made coffee, pretending I wasn't waiting for my phone to light up again. But deep down, I knew it would. People like Ethan don't accept endings. They negotiate them. By noon, there it was, a notification. GoFundMe update. Please help Ethan rebuild after financial abuse. I laughed so hard I spilled my coffee. The campaign had photos, one of him sitting cross-legged in the apartment I'd furnished, looking solemn under soft lighting. The description read like a melodrama. After being manipulated, isolated, and abandoned, I'm starting over. She forced me to depend on her financially and then left me with nothing. He'd even tagged his yoga students. Total raise so far, $250. $200 from his mother, $50 from an aunt. Mom looked over my shoulder, unimpressed. Well, she said, it's nice to see he's finally earning something. I couldn't help but smile. The job saga. By midweek, things got worse for Ethan, though not for me. I started getting calls from unknown numbers during work hours. The first one introduced herself as Clara from Fitwell Gym. Hi, I'm calling about a reference for Ethan Cole. I blinked. Excuse me? He listed you as his professional reference. I nearly laughed. We've never worked together. Oh, he listed you as a previous manager. He's never been my employee, I said calmly. We were in a personal relationship. I can't speak to his professional performance. There was a pause. Ah, understood. Click. The same thing happened 2 more times. Different gyms, same conversation. By the 3rd call, I wasn't even irritated anymore, just fascinated at the consistency of his self-deception. Later that day, I got a text from Frank. He says you're sabotaging his job hunt. He listed me as a professional reference without asking, I replied. I told the truth. That's not sabotage. He's desperate, Maya. He hasn't been sleeping. Maybe you could just say something nice next time? You want me to lie to help him get a job he'll quit in 2 weeks? Silence, then. He's 27, broke, and living with his parents. Have some compassion. Frank, I wrote, I do have compassion. That's why I left, because I was enabling him, not loving him. He didn't reply again. The freedom in routine. Meanwhile, I'd rediscovered something I hadn't felt in years. Peace that wasn't borrowed. Without Ethan's expenses, I was thriving. My savings account climbed steadily. I started waking up early, running with Mom in the park before work. We cooked together, traded recipes, argued gently about garlic to ginger ratios. We talked about the basement remodel, about adding a small kitchenette, maybe a fold-out sofa. So you can have your own space, she said. I already had it, not just the space, the air. One night, Mom caught me smiling at my laptop. Good news? She asked. Better, I said. I finally changed my emergency contact from Ethan's number to yours. She grinned. Smart choice. I answer faster. The return. 2 weeks later, it happened again. A knock at the door. Sunday, 3 p.m. This time, Ethan came alone. He looked different. Drawn, tired, desperate. But his eyes were the same. That flicker of entitlement dressed up as remorse. Maya, he began, voice trembling just enough to sound rehearsed. Please, can we talk? Mom wasn't home, thankfully. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. 2 minutes, I said. He nodded. I miss you. I messed up, I know. I shouldn't have said what I said, but you overreacted. My jaw tightened. You mocked my love for my mother, Ethan. You announced your plan to control me in front of your entire family. How exactly was I supposed to react? He flinched. You don't have to keep punishing me. I'm suffering, okay? I can't afford the apartment. My mom's furious. I lost my students. Ethan, I interrupted softly. Your suffering doesn't erase your choices. He stepped closer. We were supposed to build a life together. Don't throw that away because of one bad night. One night showed me what the rest of my life would look like. He blinked. You think you're better than me now? No, I said. I just finally know I deserve better. His face hardened. Fine. But don't come crying back when you realize no one will love you the way I did. I smiled, genuinely. I hope not. I went inside and locked the door. He stayed outside for a few minutes, pacing, muttering something I couldn't hear, then left. I stood by the window and watched his car disappear. And for the first time since that dinner, I didn't feel angry, just free. The moment of balance. 2 days later, I met with the caterer to finalize Mom's birthday menu. The woman smiled as she confirmed the details. You know, she said, I don't usually say this, but I hope your mother knows how lucky she is to have you. I smiled. She does, and I'm lucky to have her. As I left, my phone buzzed. Another notification. This time from Sabrina, Ethan's ex. He called me today. Said you ruined his life. Funny, because that's exactly what he said about me 2 years ago. Don't let him drag you back into the story, Maya. He only knows how to repeat it. I stared at the message for a while. Then I deleted it. Not because I disagreed, because I didn't need it anymore. The story was over, at least for me. The foreshadowing of something new. Mom's birthday was a week away. We had 60 guests coming, family, neighbors, old friends from her sewing circle. When the catering team asked if I wanted to give a speech, I said maybe, but secretly I already knew what I'd say. Something about gratitude, about how strength doesn't always look like defiance. It sometimes looks like walking away quietly, holding your dignity instead of your anger. I'd say that I learned love isn't control or sacrifice or endurance. It's respect. And the people who mock that kind of love will never understand it. And maybe, just maybe, I'd end with a toast. To the women who raised us, to the ones who stayed soft in a world that told them softness was weakness, to the mothers who never stopped being our home. Mom would probably cry. I would too. 6 weeks. That's how long it's been since that Sunday when Ethan showed up at my door for the last time. 6 weeks since he left my porch with his pride cracked open and my peace finally intact. Funny thing about peace, it doesn't make noise. It grows in the quiet spaces where chaos used to live. Mom's birthday. The night of Mom's birthday felt like a movie that I'd already earned the ending to. Soft lights draped across the garden, the scent of lemongrass and grilled chicken floating through the air. Neighbors, cousins, old friends, all there for her, but in a way, for me too. The same caterer who once prepared my canceled wedding served the meal with a grin. She even whispered as she set down the cake, "Best reallocation I've ever seen." Mom laughed all evening, cheeks pink from wine and warmth. She didn't know I'd written her a little speech until I stood up with a trembling glass of champagne. "To my mother," I said, voice shaking, just enough to be real. "You taught me that love isn't measured in what you control. It's measured in what you give without keeping score. You raised me to believe kindness isn't weakness. And when someone tried to make me feel small for that, you reminded me who I am." The garden went quiet, except for the night bugs and a few sniffles. Mom looked up, eyes wet but steady. "Always, Kongai," she whispered. And then everyone clapped, because sometimes even in real life, happy endings sound like applause. The ripple effect. A week later, Frank stopped by Mom's house to drop off tools. He still helps her fix small things now and then. He looked different, older, but lighter. "She's still living with us," he said about Ethan. "Still doesn't have a steady job. Complains that Patricia treats him like a child." He sighed. "Maybe that's karma, or maybe it's just consequence." I smiled. "Maybe both." He nodded. "You escaped at the right time, Maya. We created a monster. Patricia babied him. I looked away, and you paid for it." "Not anymore," I said. He smiled a little sadly. "Good. Don't look back." I didn't plan to. Later, Mom told me she'd overheard Patricia at the market complaining that Ethan's GoFundMe didn't get the traction it deserved. Apparently, he'd deleted it after the comments turned against him, some from his own yoga students who'd heard about the dinner. One wrote, "Maybe stop mocking people for loving their parents." The friend group collapsed. Without my wallet buffering their lifestyles, Ethan's friends started turning on each other. Group trips canceled, dinners downgraded to takeout, and someone even posted on social media. People who bite the hand that feeds them shouldn't complain when they're hungry. No names, but everyone knew. Victoria, the same friend who once Venmo requested me for Ethan's share, blocked him after he forgot to pay her back for gas money. Chloe moved to another city. The once perfect circle of balance fell apart. It was poetic justice, wrapped in Instagram stories about energy shifts. New beginnings. Mom's knee surgery came up in late spring. That's where I met Lucas, the nurse assigned to her recovery. He was gentle but straightforward, the kind of man who looked people in the eye when he spoke. He'd check Mom's vitals, crack a quiet joke, and ask if I was the daughter who brings homemade soup every day. When I nodded, he smiled. "Your mom brags about you like you cured gravity." The first time he asked me to coffee, I hesitated. He wasn't a grand gesture kind of person. Just solid, present, calm, exactly the opposite of everything I'd gotten used to. We took it slow. We split every bill 50-50. He opened doors, but not because he thought I couldn't, because he wanted to. And when I told him I still had Sunday lunches with my mom, he didn't roll his eyes. He asked what he could bring. Last week, he came over to help cook. Mom insisted he chop scallions while she tested him with questions. By dessert, she'd already declared, he passes. Closure. A few days ago, Ethan texted from a new number. Just one message. "I hope you're happy." I typed back. I am. I hope someday you are too. He read it and blocked me right after. That's how people like him try to win the last move, by pretending it's theirs. I didn't care. I'd already moved out of the basement into a bright two-bedroom apartment across town. One room for me, one for a future I haven't decided yet. I still visit Mom every Sunday, still help with repairs, still bring the same jasmine tea we drank the night I came home broken. Except now I don't feel like I'm retreating there. I feel like I'm coming home by choice. Epilogue. The little girl who grew up. The day I signed my new lease, Mom hugged me on the porch and said, "Remember what he called you?" I nodded. A little girl who needs her mommy. She smiled. Turns out that little girl built a better life than any of them. I laughed. Guess she did. That night, I sat in my new apartment, window open, the city breathing outside. I thought about that dinner table, how small I'd felt, how sure Ethan had been that control was love, how he'd looked for laughter and found only silence. I realized something then. Silence is powerful when it's yours. When you stop defending yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, you win by simply walking away. I still keep one thing from that old apartment. The note I left on the counter beside the keys. It says, "Rent's paid through the end of the month. After that, it's your responsibility." It's more than a line about an apartment. It's the lesson of my 20s. After that, it's your responsibility. Because loving your family isn't weakness. Respecting yourself isn't arrogance. And walking away from people who laugh at your tenderness, that's not losing, that's growing up. The little girl who needed her mother, she's doing just fine. But for the first time in a long while, they'd be tears I chose.